In this session, we would like to introduce the object-oriented programming concepts from Python language. This is a part of Python full stack development with Django. This course is developed by Velan Fanindra Kumar and Dr. T. Praveen from Department of Computer Science and Engineering, KL Demutubu University, Vadeswaram. Coming to the introduction to object-oriented programming, the major concepts involved how classes and objects are declared, how to declare attributes and methods, how to declare constructors, and what type of constructors that Python supports, what is inheritance and what type of inheritance that Python supports, followed by the polymorphism and encapsulation. Coming to the introduction to OOP, it is actually a programming paradigm that revolves around the concept of objects. Normally, these objects represent real-world entities or concepts and encapsulate the data as well as the behaviors. Normally, the behaviors will operate on the data. These behaviors we call normally methods or functions, and we combine those two into a single unit. So, class is a combination of data and functions. Coming to the applications of object-oriented programming, there are many applications in real world where the object-oriented programming principles of Python is used. So some of the applications include to develop web applications, we need Flask and Django from Python. These two are developed using Python OO principle. Similarly to game development and to develop the GUI application and to analyze the data and data science, we make use of libraries like Pandas and NumPy. These two things are developed using Python OO principles. Similarly, to implement AI algorithms like machine learning and deep learning, these algorithms are coming from Scikit-learn as well as TensorFlow. These two things are developed using Python OOP, and also Python OOP principle can be used to develop the content management system. Coming to the introduction to objects, normally Python will support different types of data. Some of the things, when you take an example, 999 actually it is of type integer. When you take 1.23, it's a floating point number, and it supports also the strings like ALU and list as well as the dictionary. So each and everything is an object in Python. So as an example, when you took 999, actually it is an instance of an int. Similarly, KLU it's a string, so it's an instance of the string. So to create the class, normally the class involves, we need to define the class name as well as the attributes and the functions. So the class contain attributes and functions. Class is created with the keyword class. So a function defined inside a class, normally we call it a method. Class attributes are accessed through the object. As an example, when you take a class, normally a class is a blueprint of an instance of or an object. It defines the structure and behavior of the instances. Take an example, when you take car as a class, the instance like different type of cars that we manufacture are like a Mercedes, BMW, Audi, these are columns under the objects. How to declare a class? So this is an example how to declare a class and how to create instance in Python. Normally, as in another programming languages, in Python also, a class is declared using class keyword followed by the name of the class. Here, class is the keyword and employee is the class name, and we put colon to make sure that it contains certain attributes and functions. So here envo and ename are two attributes assigned with some null values. Then we created an instance to the employee class. So emp1 is an instance, or we call it as an object. And if you want to access the attributes of the class, we can make use of the instance followed by the dot operator. With the dot operator, we can able to access the variables or attributes of the class, like emp1.envo is equal to 101, emp1.ename is equal to something you can assign. If you want to print this data, we can write a print function. We are writing a print function to print the data available in the two attributes, employee number and employee name. When you look at this class, we can say that class is the employee and it contains two attributes, employee number and employee name. As you can see, emp1 is an instance of the class, so it's an object. If you want to create, you can create multiple objects to the same class. So if you want to check how to create these things, we will go to the PyCharm IDE and we can able to understand how to declare a class. So class is declared with the keyword class followed by, you can create any class name. We will declare a class name as student over here. So normally in Python, we need to have four spaces when you want to write inside a particular block. So student class is also, we declared a class. So I want to declare attributes. I want to take an attribute called student number. Initially, I want to initialize with s name, 0, and I will take another attribute s name and assign an empty string to this. So when I look at this, this is a class with two attributes. If you want to create instance to this class student, what we will do is we need to write an instance for this. I will make a student is my instance, and to create instance, what I need to, you need to create instance of the class like this. So this is an instance of class student. If we want to access the data, or if you want to assign some values to the attributes, what we will do is use the instance and call the attributes. If you want to assign some value to our SNO, you can assign like this. So similarly, if you want to assign certain value to sname, you can assign like this. So through instance of the student class, I can able to assign values to the attributes. Then if you want to see the output, so I can able to print this student dot SNO. So I can able to see the output of, or I can able to see what is the value stored inside the student number. Similarly, you can access the student name. So you go and run the program, you can able to see the data available in the two attributes. So when you look at this example, it is an example to create a class with attributes only. So the class contains only the attributes. To access these attributes, normally we create instance to the class. So student is an instance to the class student, and through the instance we can able to access the attributes that defined inside the class. This is how we declare the attributes inside the class. Not only this, we can able to create methods also inside the class. So how to declare methods in this? So what I will do, we'll start taking a class student. Inside I will take some attributes, like I will take two attributes here. As in this previous examples, I have taken two attributes as assigned with some null values. Next, what I will do, I need to declare a function. So how do you declare a function? Normally functions are declared with the keyword def and followed by the name of the function. So I will declare a function as insert. So when you declare a function, as you know, def is the keyword used to declare the function, defining the function, and insert is the name of the function that we want to create. Self is the coding convention we use it for the representation that this function is belongs to the class student. So inside, what I will do is I will assign certain values to the attributes. So I will assign student number to 101, student name is equal to some value I will pass. Normally, if you want to specify this SNO belongs to the class student, we need to represent the coding convention like self.SNO, so that we can able to understand the data that what you want to store. These values are stored inside the variables SNO and SNAME. This is how we declare a function. So how we declare a function? We use the keyword def followed by the insert name of the function. You can give your own name. For inside that one function, we can create what are the logic that you want to write. That logic we will write, and once you want to print that, normally we will write one more function. So we'll take a display function like this. Inside I want to print the student number followed by student name. So when I look at this particular example, what I can able to see is the class is student, which contains two attributes SNO and SNAME, and two functions we have created. One is called insert, the other one is display. So this is my class. If you want to access the attributes as well as the methods of the class, what we will do is we create instance. So I will create an instance like stu. So this is how we declare an instance to the class. Then I will call the insert method, so that this function will be invoked and the values will be assigned to the attributes. Then I will call the display function to display whatever the data that we stored. So this is way how we declare an instance. Then what we are doing, through the instance, we are able to invoke insert as well as display functions. So when you go and run this, you can see able to see the same output. So when you call your insert, what will happen? The values 101 and Kumar will be assigned to the two attributes. And when you call display function, the data you're displaying. So it's a simple example of creating a class with some attributes and the functions. As you can see, this function is a function without any parameter. So what we will do is any number of times when you create instance to this class, always the values 101 and Kumar will be initialized, or these values will be stored inside the two attributes. So this is an example of a default function. Sometimes what will happen, I want to ask the user to send some data to the function. So in this case, what I will do, I will pass some values over here, or we need to pass some parameters. What are the values comes to my function? I want to store those things into the attributes declared inside the class. So this is how we will do it. So this is an idea how we declare a parameterized function inside the class. What we will do, so we create a function and we pass some parameters over here. The idea of this parameter is what are the values that you pass to this particular function. These values we want to store the attributes declared inside the class. So what we want to do, so what are the value come to x, this value we want to store in the attribute SNO, and what are the values we are passing to y, it will be stored in SName. So what is the idea of this? Now we declared a class with two attributes and one function which is taking two parameters. There is another function. It's a normal function where we are displaying the information. So the difference between the two functions, what is the difference? The first function is taking parameter, the second function is a default function. So it's an example for a parameterized function. It's an example for the default function. When you want to invoke the parameterized function inside the class, first of all, we need to have an instance of the class like this. Then followed by what we will do, we need to call the insert function by passing the two parameters. So I will pass two parameters. One parameter I will pass is 101. The other one is I will pass something like Kumar. So the way how we are doing, so through instance only I am accessing the parameterized one. And because it is taking two parameters, so I will pass two arguments like 101 Kumar to this function, so that the data will be assigned to XNO. Those values will be assigned to the attributes SNO and SName. Then finally you are printing the data. So if you go save this and go for running, you can able to see the output 101 Kumar. So the display function you are invoking by passing values to the parameterized function. So it's another example to create a class with attributes and the parameterized functions. Normally sometimes what we want to have automatically without calling the function, I want to assign values. In that case we go with the concept of the constructor. So what we will do, we declare a constructor to initialize the values to the attributes declared inside the class. To declare those things, what we will do is we need to write the constructor, and in Python we declare a constructor like this, initializing the values to the attributes. So init is the function we need to use to declare a constructor in Python. What we'll do is we assign some values over here. Like, see, I want to assign some 102 to SNO, the attribute to 102 to attribute SNO, and assign certain value. So I will pass some value to the two attributes. So I don't want to access, I don't want this parameterized one, so I will make it a comment. This is a multi-line comment in Python. So what I am doing now here, I have a class with two attributes, and there is a constructor we defined over here, and then we have created a normal function. So when I look at this, the class contains two attributes and two functions, and there is a specialty of the first function, it's a constructor. So this is a constructor. That too, it's a default constructor. Why default? Because I did not pass any argument or any parameter to this constructor. So this is how we will do. So normally if you declare a function, we can access the function through the instance of the class. But when you declare a constructor in the class, automatically the constructor will be invoked when you create instance to the class. So what is the meaning of this? When I declare a constructor, or when I declare an instance like this, automatically this constructor will be invoked. So there is no need to invoke the insert function. As you know, there is no insert function in our class because we have commented it. So Python cannot able to understand to compile this particular thing. So what it will do? Only we create instance to the class, automatically this constructor will be invoked. Then the values like 102 and Harish will be assigned to the attributes SNO and SName. And when you display, those values will be displayed. So in the previous case, if you have a normal function, what we need to do is once you create an instance, you need to call the functions. You need to call all the functions. To set the value, we need to call the insert. To retrieve the data, we need to have display. So instead of having a function with parameters, what we can do is we declare a constructor. So when you declare a constructor, what will happen is whenever you create instance to the class, automatically these values will be assigned to the attributes of the class. So in this case, when you save the program and go for compilation, you can see. So because you need to assign the values, because these attributes declare inside the class, correct? So I need to use self.sname. See, you can see the output like 102 Harish. These are the values we pass to the constructor. So it's an example to create a default constructor. Like a parameterized function, we can able to create a parameterized constructor in the Python program. So how we do it? Again, we need to pass the parameters, and what are the values coming to that parameters, we need to assign to the attributes, as in parameterized functions. So in this case, in the previous case, we have a parameterized function. We need to pass the arguments when you are invoking the function. But when you have a parameterized constructor in the class, what we will do is, while declaring the instance, we need to pass the values. So I will pass here 103 and I will pass Raju. So what we are doing now, because your class contains a parameterized construct with two parameters, what we will do is, whenever you are creating instance to the class, I need to pass the arguments. So I need to assign the values to the parameterized constructor. So these values will go to the parameters x and y. So whatever the value comes to my x, it will be stored in the attribute s and o. Whatever the value come to y, it will store in the s name. So when you go for printing, you can able to understand. I will save the program and we will see the output. You see your 103 and Raju. These are the two values that we pass to the parameterized constructor. So it's an example how we declare a class with attributes, class with attributes and functions, class with attributes and constructors. This is how we will implement the class concepts in Python.